Hi, I'm Beth Claxton. I'm a medical doctor, board certified in obstetrics and gynecology, and certified in functional medicine through the Institute for Functional Medicine. My practice is Flagstaff Functional Medicine in Flagstaff, Arizona, and Sedona, Arizona. And today we have with us Ali Damron. Ali is a licensed acupuncturist from Denver, Colorado, and her business is Denver Acupuncture and Wellness. And she works with women and hormones, and we were just having a conversation, and I said, we've got to record this right now.
Oh,
So welcome.
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so can you speak a little bit more about your journey to acupuncture and
Yeah,
what drew you to healthcare in the first place?
yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a small town in Western Nebraska that the medical system was obviously a small town. And like I mentioned, the internist was the oncologist and a lot of like mixes of things. And I had several family members when I was a child and into my early adulthood that just went through a lot of cancers and heart diseases and strokes. And I witnessed just a lot of things. And, we're a very tight-knit family. And so I was very much involved in their medical care. Went to the hospitals, went to doctor's appointments, heard my parents at least when I was a child, like talking about what was going on. And I think maybe like in high school sometime, I just started to realize like, or question, I think like, could there be a way to maybe prevent some of these things? Because it just seems like the shoe's dropping all the time. And by the way, like there's a lot of chemicals in Western Nebraska and like the farming and food. Like I ate just so much processed food as a child and, sports we played, but like I was interested in like exercise and all of those things. And so I started kind of there. And then I actually in college went to Arizona State University for my undergrad. And so I lived there and being out of Western Nebraska, which I love my childhood and no shade at all on Western Nebraska, but I went and just saw a whole bunch of different people, like people that had grown up in California or in Minnesota or New York, and just were exposed to so many different things than I had been exposed to. And they were doing like acupuncture, chiropractic, or like organic food and just different things that I was like, well, maybe like there's something to this. And so one of my friends actually grew up in California and she was going to be a chiropractor and she was like, I'm going to go to acupuncture. Do you want to go? And I was like, okay, sure, I'll try it. And when I went, the two acupuncturists that I had before I became one were just like the healthiest looking people I've ever seen. And they just talked about things like so differently and like talked about plants and herbs. And I was like, wow, I had no idea any of this existed beyond like just pharmaceuticals when something went wrong. And their skin was just dewy and perfect. And I was like, they're like onto something. This isn't how like people look. And so I kind of just started there and I just really loved like my acupuncturist, their bedside manner, just the support, the talking. It wasn't a quick 15-minute visit. It was long and they explained things. It made me feel really heard, which actually when I went to Arizona State University, my dad had passed like a few months before that when he was age 45. And so I was in a lot of grief and trauma. And it was very unexpected. And so I was already in like kind of this fragile state. And they just like listened to me. They asked about my emotions. And it was just a whole different experience that I really felt super cared for and supported that I just had no idea existed. And so I think that's kind of just how it emerged. I guess I forgot to say that I did become a personal trainer, like certified in college. So I did start to sort of get interested in exercise and like what that could do. And I loved personal training and I still am a trainer, but I just realized like people were coming to me as a trainer in college with like real issues and things that like my family had faced that I was like, I don't think exercise alone is going to fix this. So I think I just wanted to get a little bit more educated too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I wonder how many people really find the path like that. I know
Mhm.
for me, I knew I wanted to be a doctor because I didn't want people to suffer.
That's amazing.
And and I thought that I could make things better. And just
Yeah.
like your journey, I found that as a physician, I didn't have all the answers. And
Yeah.
there were other people that looked a lot healthier than the people I was working with.
Yeah.
And what were they doing?
Yeah.
And what was that about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maintaining curiosity, really.
Yeah. And still to this day, I'm sure you experience that too. Like I still don't have any or like all the answers and have so much more to learn. And I'm always just so intrigued by all these different areas, and technology improves and research, and we're finding new things all the time. And it really is fascinating and super cool.
Yeah. And right now I'm learning that I think there's enough data out there right now
Yeah.
to start to make a case for women being a unique species. We are not like frail men.
Yeah. Little
And
men.
and that we can be treated differently, and we can speak up for ourselves and have a completely different way that we treat ourselves.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, women are the ones that run the household.
Yeah.
So why is it that men are out there running the world?
Yeah.
Having women in running the world could make it so different.
So different. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to hear about how you found your way working with hormones.
Yeah. So, when I was in acupuncture school is a 4-year master's degree. You can get it done a little quicker if you get going. And I knew that I wanted to start a family, get married, move to Colorado. And so I was trying to hurry and get it done. And so I did it a little bit faster, but at the end of acupuncture school, I was pregnant, like very newly pregnant. And when you're pregnant, there's so much support, I think, for pregnant women. Honestly, like the doctors are all very much like all about you and making sure you're healthy and the baby. And I loved going to my OBGYN midwife appointments when I was pregnant. Like I just felt it was like just this place of self-care, and I felt like very heard and supported. And so I think that I just kind of expected to feel that same way postpartum. And I think in our country, honestly, really the minute that you push out a baby, like it's all about the baby. And you're just like, you went through this like huge thing, however you gave birth, and you're just exhausted and have this like foreign body that you're left with right away. And it's all about, okay, like get up, feed the baby, bathe the baby, like you're a caregiver now, like get going. And I think that especially as a first time mom, like when you're sick, you just take a nap and you can lay in bed and you don't have anybody that like really needs you at that point. It was like very shocking to me. And I had been a nanny, I've been a caregiver. Like I wasn't naive to being a caregiver, but I think it was just really shocking. And then you go to your 6-week postpartum visit and they're like, probably everything's fine for most women. And they're kind of like, okay, like good luck, have fun. And I just felt through my own journey, like I just needed more checking in and community and support and information and so many different things that I felt like were kind of lacking. And I think, we find ourselves in this modern culture where I think it is supposed to be a village for women. And I think you are supposed to have your moms and your aunts and your sisters and your cousins that have had children that teach you and support you and help you and cook with you. And we just don't have that now. And I think it's a huge disservice that's really contributing to the maternal mental health issues as well. And so I kind of went through my own postpartum journey and then watching patients. And every time a postpartum mom would come in, we'd do acupuncture or whatever during pregnancy and everything would be good. And then postpartum, like you'd ask them, how are you doing? And just so many tears. And like I could relate so much. And I was like, I know. And so many of them were like, I think I've ruined my life and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm so tired. And I was like, I know, I get it. You're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. But I understand. And so I still to this day love treating postpartum women because it's just such a vulnerable time, especially first time moms that I have to say like even subsequent moms, because every new pregnancy and birth is a transition for your family and like a new beginning. And I just love treating that so much. And I just felt like through that, women needed more support. And so then we all aged a bit and got into our late 30s and then 40s, and some of them are still having babies and we're in perimenopause. And I realized like, well, no one talks about perimenopause either. Like things are also changing and there's no help really. There's no talking about this. And so then I started to realize like our teenage girls and fertility and every step along the way, it's confusing and nobody knows what their body's doing. And so it just has like really propelled me to try to simplify hormones for women and try to just educate and empower and understand and listen. I think women, if they were just listened to, I think things automatically would get better.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you talk about what you do in your program that addresses hormones specifically?
Totally. So
Thanks.
what I kind of do, so I'm an empath by nature. And so part of me, I just really love hearing women's stories. And in my one-on-one consultations, we talk a lot. And I ask them symptoms head to toe, like what's going on, like a normal intake form long. But I also ask like, how's life going? Like what's going on? What is your relationships? What's your support? How anxious are you? What stress levels do you have? And just get like a really good picture. And so I think that one thing that we don't really talk about is that like the mind body is always connected. So when there's this mental emotional stress and this huge mental load and we're feeling overwhelmed and we're hurried and busy all the time, that's going to contribute to some physical stuff too, like cortisol, adrenaline, that fight or flight response, which is going to contribute to digestive issues and period issues and low energy and sleep issues and blood sugar issues and all kinds of different things that we see in a physical way. And so that's why I like to just ask the questions and just get a picture of how people are going. And then from there, I've kind of like come up with what I call the 5 pillars to hormone health. And these are just a broad amount of information. But number one is always like the nervous system and stress and mindset. And I learned this the hard way. Like I said, at 19, I had all of that trauma and I was also a massive perfectionist and I was trying to get through school fast and I was trying to get married and I was trying to have a baby and I was trying to move. And I learned it the hard way that I had chronic back pain through acupuncture school. I was really anxious. I was chugging energy drinks, like not the picture of health that I should have been doing. And so many people came to me and they're like, well, I think it's stress. And I did know that it was stress, like on some level, but I was like, what do you want me to do about that? Like, I don't know how to manage this. I don't know. I can't even meditate. I'm so like all over the place. And so, over the past 10 years or so, since I guess longer than that now, since school, I've also really studied like neuroplasticity and neuroplastic symptoms and pain. That's a really big passion of mine. And so I think that for women's bodies to heal, they have to heal their nervous system to some extent. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we got to start acknowledging that like we're frying the candle at both ends, and that's what's contributing to so many of women's health issues to begin with. So I start there. Then we talk about nutrition, and I'm not like I don't want to eliminate everything from my diet and go on these extreme restrictions and like all of these things. It's hard and it's cumbersome and it makes us not eat with our families and all of those things. And so basic things of eating protein, eating fiber. If there's foods that don't agree with you, like maybe putting those on the back burner for a bit, eating for blood sugar balance. Are there certain foods like flax seeds that could be helpful for estrogen, or cruciferous vegetables, or just things that we can maintain and be sustainable with. Sleep and sleep hygiene. I think our modern day is absolutely destroying our circadian rhythm. And so could we educate women on I think we've been just a social experiment with blue light and screens, and we're like realizing, oh, hey, this actually does ruin our brain and our melatonin if we like do this too often. So maybe let's walk back from that just a little bit. Exercise and movement. I think that's always a big, even through my journey as a personal trainer, I ran marathons in my 20s. I did a lot of HIIT workouts. I did bar workouts. I did all kinds of things. And I think that even that we're learning, like, strength training produces testosterone and human growth hormone and balances blood sugar and makes us healthier in that regard hormonally as we age. And so, just talking to women about the types of exercise, the amounts, the volumes, intensities, based on like what's going on for them. So if they're in a bunch of adrenal fatigue, like, don't do CrossFit. Let's tone it back a little bit. Walking and movement. I think we forget sometimes when we exercise that we can do that for 30 or 60 minutes a day, but then we're sitting or being sedentary, like just that extra movement kind of is better than even just like a workout sometimes. And then obviously I use supplements, vitamins, herbs, things like that to help kind of support a body depending on what it's going through, correcting imbalances. I have to say that I am a big proponent of using food-based supplements, trying not to just pile on dozens of supplements, because I think that our liver has to metabolize those, and B, I see so many patients with, I'm sure you see this too, with just laundry lists, and you're like, I don't even know, you don't even know what's doing what, where we're at. Like, it's just a lot to sift through sometimes.
Yeah, why are you on this? Oh, I heard it was good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. I have patients all the time. They're like, I heard this. And I was like, so here's the thing though. Marketing is really good right now. Like the retargeting and what you're talking about, it listens to you. And every single, company that has a supplement is going to make it sound like magic. And some of them are absolutely amazing products and companies out there that absolutely do fill a gap in a service, but nothing is like a magic bullet. I just had this conversation with a patient yesterday. I was like, I have yet to find a supplement that you're like, this is like exactly what I need in all areas. Like this is it for me. It just
Oh, yeah,
doesn't happen.
I agree. Yeah. There's some that are like really good. Like I think
Totally.
omega-3 fish oils are
Mhm.
pretty good for multiple systems.
Yeah.
There are some people, I measure their levels and they are fine without any supplementation. Like,
Of omegas.
how does your body do this? Yes.
Yeah, that is amazing. I actually just read a study maybe like 2 weeks ago talking about omega supplement or omega status in our body actually. And it was
Mhm.
like if you have, and I forget the numbers and stuff, I'd have to go back and look, but like good omega-3 status in your body, like it's like a 5-year longer lifespan, despite even like smoking and drinking. So people that smoke and have good omegas, still, it doesn't impact their lifespan as much as somebody who doesn't smoke that has really poor omegas, which was fascinating.
Yeah, well, I think it's because the omega-3s are the resolution phase of inflammation. So if
Yeah.
you can sop up extra inflammation that's floating around, then yeah,
Yeah.
you'll do better for longer.
Yeah.
I've been studying some doing some spiritual work, and the what you were talking about with the emotions. And I just wanted to say about, do you know about the physical body and the etheric body?
I've heard it. So like in Chinese medicine, we have like the ethereal body.
Yes. And what is that? Is that just like the body that's outside the physical body?
Yeah, like more in like a spiritual, like, so in
Mhm.
Chinese medicine, they do a lot of like, I guess like combination of like Buddhist principles with even like I guess like our solar system and stuff. I have to say, honestly, I'm a more analytical person. And so in school, I was very much like bio, like, and actually I have to say, one of the things that it got me into hormones too, was that we could actually measure that. Like
Uh,
we could look at hormone levels, we could look at periods, like it was a measurable thing for me. And that helped me a lot with acupuncture. There are certain acupuncturists out there that are amazing, like spiritual healers and things that do very esoteric work that's super
yeah.
cool. I just never really got into it. I'm more of like a this is this type of a person.
And yeah, that's great because for most people, what we see is what we understand.
Yeah. And I just felt like our culture isn't very much like that. And so
Mhm.
people, especially with acupuncture, and especially honestly, like 10 to 15 years ago, like it was still, not really being studied that much. Like it was still very much a little bit of like an outsider thing. And so I think based on that, I was like, I need measurable results for this so that I can show people that this is actually doing something. And like, I mean, there's MRIs, like they've shown blood flow things, they've shown things scientifically for where you put needles and things like that, which is super cool. But I just tended to gravitate toward those things, both for myself and for Western culture, I think.
Yeah, more tangible results.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, learning about the etheric body and then the emotional, mental body, that bodies that are right there. That's where our thoughts start to affect our physical. So it's, yes, and our nervous system and our immune system, they're linked in through that etheric body.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a thing. It's becoming more and more concrete as
Oh my
esoteric.
gosh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I had chronic back pain, I had it from age 25 to 30. And it was a few months when I started acupuncture school, and it all makes sense now. But I did start to realize, like after 5 years, I had some patterns of things, and it never like fully went away. It was like very chronic, very frustrating. But I did notice like the times that I was on vacation, mostly on vacation, to be honest, it like got better. And I like watched it fade a little bit. So I kind of was like, okay, stress is an aspect of this. But again, I had no idea how to manage that and like what I was doing on vacation, like how to make that a reality in my real life too. And there's a doctor, his name is Dr. John Sarno. Have you ever heard of him?
I think I know the name.
Yeah, so he's passed now, but in the 80s and 90s, he was an orthopedic surgeon, and he started to realize, mostly with back pain, that's what he treated. He started to realize like some people have like herniated discs or spinal stenosis or different structural abnormalities, and some people get surgery and their back on imaging looks great. And then they still have pain, and other people, and like sometimes the pain moves, so it's not always like the same quality or the same place or something like that. And he's like, and other people like have these structural abnormalities and don't have pain. And he was like, there's something else that's like here that's creating this. And so he started to like ask his patients more. I don't remember how he like started this, but he started to ask his patients more about like trauma and stress and personality characteristics and things like that. And he found like a lot of people, and again, this is very premature, we've come so far with this in the past several decades, but he started to realize that people with chronic back pain in his practice had either big traumas in their life, or they fit this bill of like perfectionist, people pleaser, goodist, like a lot of type A stuff, which both actually were me. And so he started to talk about like how pain is this danger signal, and if we can eliminate the danger signal in our body and stop being so preoccupied and anxious and scared of the pain, it actually starts to dissipate. And so now it's called neuroplastic pain, and there's so many MDs, there's so many psychologists and brain science researchers that have come up with this idea of neuroplasticity, and how many symptoms it can create, like all the pain, all the itises, so tendinitis, gastritis, those types of things, dizziness, vertigo, hives. Like we kind of know that these things are like stress, right? We're like, they change and they come and go and they're not always the same. And so, it makes sense that like if there's a tumor or infection, like when we have a kidney infection, like there's no coming and going with that. It's an infection in there, it hurts, it's there until you treat it, right? And so they started to realize like this stuff that like comes and goes, like it's something else that's driving it. And so it's super fascinating, but they've realized like our brain can get conditioned to have certain symptoms, and these like wirings can create it. And it's really interesting. So anyways, that's how I treated my back pain, and I haven't had it in 10 years.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had back pain, and one of the things I learned through that was with physical therapy, when it started, when I could sort of feel like the muscle, and it was all muscle weakness postpartum.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
It was like a few years postpartum. So
Mm-hmm.
what I realized was once those muscles started spasming or whatever they were doing, I would react, and it was my reaction that would make them even tighter and make the pain even worse. And I had another experience with back pain. I decided that I wanted, I was picking up my daughters after school. And so there would be one day a week where I would work like crazy hard so that I could pick up my daughters at school the rest of the time. So I would work this 12-hour clinic day, like
just like
12
you're out yourself.
hours. I work 6-hour clinic days now, and it's long.
Yeah.
It's long. And I realized I would walk out of the clinic and it would be like 7 p.m. and my back was hurting, but it wasn't like my lower back. It was my like sort of upper mid back on the sides. Not until I was in functional medicine training did I realize that those are my adrenals. Those are my adrenals aching. They had been squeezing all
Trying to help you so much cope with everything. I know.
through the day. And then I wouldn't have that pain anymore until the next 12-hour clinic at the end of the day, walking out to my car. Oh, the back pain. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah. And you've also mentioned when we were talking before recording about how you see women, how our culture is treating women in medicine from your point. So can you say just a little bit more about that?
I think there's a lot of research that shows, and again, I don't have the exact numbers, but that shows like women have to go to the doctor X more times than men to like get treated and get taken seriously. And, back in the 1900s or probably 1800s, like women were treated for hysteria because of like PMS and stuff. And it's just, there's like long roots. And I think it's becoming more subtle now, but still just like, the emotional woman and like the woman's crazy and oh my God, her period's here. She's going to act a certain way. And it's still very much like ingrained in our culture. And it's sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's not untrue that we have those things. But I do think that, I just think, like you said, we're not little men. And I think that, even certain studies on supplements or training, like weight training and things like that, or fasting and nutrition protocols, like a lot of that was done on men. And we're not taking into consideration, like we have a different system going. We have a different stress response, I think. And I think partially it's from the generational stuff of just like moms and women carry more mental load and that causes more stress. And I always joke, like, for example, my husband and we joke together, like, for him, taking our son to soccer practice is just like, oh, okay, I'll take my son to soccer practice. For me, it's like, okay, so what time are we going to leave? What time's going to get ready? Where's the shoes? Where's the socks? Let's get the water bottle. We got to walk across the field. I wonder what's going to happen at practice today. Then we got to go here. I wonder if he's going to be hungry. Like, there's like 90 things that go into me thinking about going to soccer practice. And so I think like some of the more societal pressures for women absolutely contribute to that. But I think that, unfortunately men just, and I'm stereotyping a little bit, but mostly men don't think the same women do the same way. And so they just don't get it. And they're just like looking at us like we have four heads. And so I think if we can just start to understand that women are different, we have hormonal fluctuations, and within our cycle, psychologically, we're different. And I think, we experience a lot of irritability or depression or anxiety or moodiness at the end of our cycle. But I think a lot of it's because progesterone is really high at that point in the cycle. It should be in a healthy woman. And progesterone makes us want to have more downtime. It makes us more sleepy. It makes us want to be a little bit more introverted and more like detail oriented. And when we can't alter our life at all and just have to put pedal to the metal, we're like resisting everything that our body's doing and saying and asking for because we feel like we don't have any other choice. And that's going to create a lot of tension and resistance in our body, which is going to show up as irritability, anxiety, low mood. We also have cortisol fluctuations at the end of that cycle. And so I do think like learning and recognizing these big hormonal shifts throughout the month too, even in that, could be so helpful in teaching women like, hey, I'm about to get my period in like 4 days. I'm gonna not go out tonight, and I'm gonna like ask you to take the kids to soccer, and I'm gonna take a little bit more downtime here, or I'm going to do a little bit more of the bare minimum in work this week, and we're probably not gonna like launch a new summit or a new digital course or something like that. Like we're gonna kind of pay attention to the internal alarm that our body is sending us and like the signals, and be able and have like the willingness and power to listen to that better. And I think we'd all feel so much better, but I think we need men to get on board with that.
Yeah.
And also recognize, you know, even in the workplace, like I think there's a lot of that happening where in certain male dominated industries like finance or medicine, or you gotta like women are crushing the glass ceiling, which is amazing and I'm totally here for it, but they're expected to work how men work.
They're not pulling their weight.
Right. And if they have a day where they have a period and they're crampy and they feel miserable, like, and they're not on their A game, the man's like, what are you doing? Like, you
Or if
can't.
they're perimenopausal
Yeah.
or menopausal and
Yeah.
are having trouble thinking clearly,
Yeah.
it's a thing. It's a real thing.
It is. And so I just think women supporting women, talking about it, explaining it, like you and I doing that, I think is so helpful. But I think men need to understand that this is a real thing. And if they had to go through 1 month of perimenopause and hormonal fluctuations, I don't think they would make it. I'm going to be honest.
There would be a lot more publicity, I'm sure.
There would be like the world's got to turn off at this point in the day or the cycle. We can't do it.
Yeah, and I would like to just talk a little bit. You alluded to the summit. So Ali and I are having this conversation on YouTube because I had planned to have a summit and realized in the last couple of days that that is not what is called for right now in my life, that I'm exhausted. I broke my dominant wrist 3 weeks ago and have been learning to use the other side of my body. And yeah, I'm exhausted. So we're not having the summit this time, and we're having a lovely series of interviews, and I hope that everyone can enjoy them. Is there anything you want to add? Anything that's coming up for you?
I think just like I said, I think that on social media now, perimenopause and hormones is a big buzzy topic, which is wonderful. Like we need this. We need women to feel heard and validated, and that is great. But I also think that I still have women, I'm sure you do too, every day that are so confused on what to do, who to listen to, how to treat this. Do you do birth control? Do you do HRT? Can you do it naturally or like, you know, naturally? What do you do? How do you feel better? And I just, like I said, my biggest thing is yes, you can feel better. I think so many women really don't understand their mothers or aunts have just suffered through this time period. And we're at a crossroads here where we're learning so much more. There's so much more scientific research into this and evidence-based research that shows there are things we can do. We can feel better. Like I said, some of it's lifestyle, some of it's passively accepting that this is a phase that we're in. But there is so much more to do, and it does not have to be your whole paycheck, your whole like wellness being a full-time job. I'm a mom, I'm a business owner. I don't want to make wellness my full-time job. And sometimes I see like different really huge influencers, most of them men, unfortunately, that have these their whole day is their wellness routine. They're fasting and they're cold plunging and they're sauning and they're meditating and then they're going on a leisure walk and then they're doing an IV drip. And then it's like, no, like that can't happen in my world, at least in most of my patients' world. And so I think, you know, doing what you can, just finding the biggest dial movers for you, it can be done.
Yeah, and I also think that even a century ago, there wasn't extreme perimenopause and menopause. And I
I
think we've
know.
created a culture that has precipitated this as
I
an
agree.
aftermath.
I agree. Yeah. I think, I mean, so many of our issues around cortisol, adrenaline, the drive and all of that is a huge reason that so many women are struggling so much more. Insulin resistance, metabolic health, inflammation. It's why it's so bad right now. I highly agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been great chatting.
Yes, thank you so much. I love this conversation.
And how would people find you if they want to, talk to you more?
So I'm like everywhere. You can go on my website at Ali Damron. You can I have a podcast called The Ali Damron Show. I have YouTube at Ali Damron. I have Instagram at Ali Damron. So Facebook, pretty much any of the big platforms I'm on there. And I'm always happy to help answer questions, try to steer women in the right direction of what they need. So if you guys have questions, feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.